over the last week, there has been quite a bit of controversy around Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, their plans, and how they have mishandled their fan base and basically killed the golden goose. While everyone is talking about what's happening right now, and yes, that is important, no one is talking about what the long-term game is, what the long con is from Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. In order to paint you a picture of where I see Dungeons and Dragons heading and the digital-only future for this game, I have to put a few of the recent events into context so that we can all follow along with my thought process. And while many of the things that I'm going to talk about are predictions, they are speculation, it just makes sense when you look at the big picture, and I don't think enough people are doing that right now. So let's quickly recap at the beginning so that we understand what's happened. If you're unfamiliar, Wizards of the Coast, or Hasbro, tried to change the open gaming license, one that has existed for 23 years, and basically stabbed the community in the back. Specifically, the community who create things for Dungeons and Dragons under their own worlds, their own creations, their own ideas. Wizards underhandedly tried to get this new open gaming license pushed through. They tried to silence very popular and big-time creators who they initially went to with this first. The only reason that we know about it is because it was leaked. Linda Codega, who writes with IO9, who I think is owned by Gizmodo, or there's some link there, that's the first person to break the story. Many changes within this new OGL are quite restrictive, specifically a royalty structure for those who were making a lot of money on the backs of D&D, and a clause in there which seemed to give Wizards of the Coast the legal right to take people's works, claim it as their own, and sell it back, without giving credit to the creator and without paying the original creator for the content. They also used wording basically saying that they were going to revoke the old open game license. This led to a huge uprising, revolution. It upset the fans quite a bit, and they felt, rightfully so, quite betrayed. Wizards then goes on to give a press release, one that was not well done, and again, not well received by the community. They outright lied and gaslit the fandom. I have done an earlier video where I talk about this, why it's a lie. You can find that in the description below. There was a lot of speculation around whether or not Wizards could actually revoke or cancel their old open game license. And sure, they tried to put some verbiage in contract that might allow them to do this. Ultimately, it was decided by real lawyers and keyboard lawyers that it would actually have to go to court to be decided because there really isn't a precedent for this. However, it may not actually matter. Now, this leads us into the most recent controversy, and that was a leaked document on some plans that Wizards of the Coast has for D&D Beyond, the subscription service, the subscription model that exists for Dungeons and Dragons. This leak is several months old, and while it was claimed to be fake, it really lets us in on some intentions of Wizards of the Coast. And with this final piece, whether it's real or fake, it really gives me the final piece of the puzzle. I can now see the final vision that the executives have, what they desire for their game that they own, not the one that the community as a whole will enjoy or even wants. So let's put our capitalist business hats on and let's talk about a business plan that I can see coming for Dungeons and Dragons and D&D Beyond specifically. As an executive, we have to think about how to generate money for our company so that we can get bigger bonuses because we just need to be paid more. The only way to do that is to increase revenue, increase profit. The bulk of spending that happens is from the game masters. So that's one person to run a game for 4, 5, 6, 7 people. In most cases, the GM is the one who does most of the purchasing. It is good table etiquette that every player should at least have the core rulebook of the game you are playing, regardless of what system it is, but it's not always possible. In the call to investors, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast know this.
We made this acquisition to strengthen our connection to players and to power our next phase of product development, user acquisition, and to have live service tools through which we gain really valuable data-driven insights. With DDB, we have a window into how fans are playing the game daily. Even if they're playing around the dining room table, many of our D&D fans use Dungeons and Dragons Beyond as a companion app on their phone to make the experience better. And this gives us a look at how people are playing in their homes that we never had before. And so when we think about our future monetization, we start here. Dungeon masters, which are the people who guide you through the adventure, they only make up about 20% of the audience, but they are the largest share of our paying players.
They know that 20% of the players make 80% of the purchases. So we have to figure out how to monetize the other 80%. Subscription models are all the rage right now, and they're great for corporate bottom lines because we can plan on monthly recurring revenue. We no longer have to have these ups and downs of selling an individual product and hoping that it sells well. The problem that we are now facing as an executive business person is that there's an open gaming license, so anyone is allowed to create off of our IP that we have bought, intellectual property. There's a whole other argument to be made to say that they could actually own certain things, own game mechanics. That's a whole different ball of wax. For the sake of argument, just go with me on this. It's a thought experiment. As an executive, we see people making money and not paying us for using things that we have created or using the system that we have created. They didn't actually create it, they just bought it. So as good business people, we are now incentivized to close that hole. We must take control of the property, take control of the franchising, take control of everything so that we can monetize it the way we want to. What the executives were likely thinking, let's target some of the biggest players, your Critical Roles, your Ginny D's, those influencers who have a large audience. We'll get them on our side, either strong-arming them, giving them a sweet deal that we're not going to give to everyone else, and we'll silence them with NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. And if they don't sign it, we won't give them a sweetheart deal. We won't give them a new license for our new program. This was phase one of take control of our property from the business mindset. It isn't going well for them. I don't think they expected the backlash from the fans that they have received. So now, instead of being able to take control of everything all at once, we need to adjust our game plan. We need to do the long con. What we need is a new version of Dungeons and Dragons, one that we can build around monetization and get the money of those other 80% of players. Enter D&D. They were already working on it because this was the plan from phase one, but now we have to do stage 2. Within our new system, not only are we going to have all of the rules, the classes, and any new information that you could want, it will all be easily accessible in our one platform, which we are going to control and not let anybody else have access to. We'll even build in a virtual tabletop so that you can game with your friends. And just as a side note, all of these conveniences are not a bad thing. But now we have to put on our executive hats again. All right, we have a system, we need to monetize it, so we're going to do a subscription model. We can charge more for it because we're going to have a virtual tabletop. We're going to have a lot of other things that you will gain access to, monthly content drops, probably several other benefits for you as the player and the subscriber. Again, not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, as long as it functions, it looks good, and is easy to use. However, let's not forget that our original goal was to monetize, so 1, we've got that now. 2, we also don't want people making money off of the backs of our creation anymore. So now we have a tier system. You can use our product for free, you can try it out, you can demo it, you can gain access to some very basic features to see if you like it. So we need a free tier to get everybody hooked and trying it out. We could very likely have a middle tier somewhere in here, and then we can have a top level tier. What we've seen from the earlier leak, this could be a potential price point. We honestly don't know, but if you're going to get monthly content drops, access to a virtual tabletop, that's not outside the realm of possibility. We can throw in a middle level tier for those who don't want to pay the full price or maybe don't want access to the virtual tabletop system. And then of course we'll have our top tier for those big spenders, the whales as it's referred to in the video game industry. Now remember I said we don't want fans to create their own works that we don't control because we're just good business people. So we make a stipulation on the free tier that you cannot add your own homebrew items, your own homebrew settings, worlds, things like that. But on the upper tiers, you absolutely can add your own homebrew content, but you just have to pay for it. Now, our third and final goal is to also revoke the old open gaming license. We might be able to do this after a long drawn out court battle. God knows we have the money to do it with Hasbro's backing, but that takes a lot of time. And the longer it drags out, the more it's thrown in the fans' faces. It's thrown in our customers' faces, and we don't want that because we don't want them to be angry with us. So what we'll do instead is we will make them voluntarily choose to revoke and not apply the old license to them. How do we do this? We'll make the customers sign something that gives up their right. Now, where could we hide something like this? Maybe in the terms and conditions that nobody reads when they sign up for anything. What we'll do is we'll put in our standard legalese in there, but we'll include a provision somewhere in the middle so that we know that they're not actually reading it, that says that if they choose to upload their own content, anything that they upload is property of Wizards of the Coast. We could probably even say that if you're willing to upload your own content to our new proprietary system, you voluntarily choose to revoke your privileges of the old open gaming license. That way, we don't actually have to cancel it and go to court and fight things. We can purposefully make the community sign and accept it if they want to use our platform. And then, because we need to make that sweet EA loot box money, what we're going to do is we're going to stuff our virtual tabletop with microtransactions. You want to buy a custom mini? Sure. You have to hand over some money, please. Oh, you want that custom color pack? Hand over some money, please. Oh, you want that cool armor setting for this character concept that you have? Great. Hand over some money, please. Then we're left with one of the biggest problems with any tabletop role-playing game, and that is scheduling or having a game master to begin with. What if we could remove the need for the game master? We could just cut them out entirely, so then we can focus solely on the other 4 or 5 players of your group. They will still have to pay to access our platform, so that way we're gonna monetize and get their money. But what if there was always a GM available for you? The only way to do this is through artificial intelligence, something that Wizards of the Coast has spent a lot of money on. We'll just build some adventures that maybe our top tier subscribers, they can gain access to every month, and they don't even need to have a game master to run them, or we can sell them for those middle tier, low tier plebs. It's this approach that I have just described that I see being the new way that Wizards of the Coast is going to try to revoke your access to the old open game license. They may try to trick you into giving up that privilege. And if you don't do it, you will not be able to play on their new tabletop system, their new version of Dungeons and Dragons, their one D&D. And before anybody says, well, what about physical books, printed copies? They won't exist. The only way that you can force people onto your virtual tabletop is to keep everything digital. So goodbye physical print and hello digital only. This is the subscription microtransaction hell that video gamers are already having to live through. Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are just trying to figure out how to video gamify tabletop gaming to monetize it the way that video games are done right now. And based off of their intentions, how they have handled the community response, which is, in a word, poorly, this is how I would do it if I was looking at it from a business-only mindset. But what do you think? Tell me about it in the comments below. If you're looking to explore some games that are not Dungeons and Dragons, I have some options for you here. My name's Nathaniel. Thanks for stopping by, everyone.